Hello. Welcome to the March Sustainability Advisory Board meeting. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Do we have any public comments today? Yes.
Mine's maybe more of a question, but is anybody familiar at all with the green and healthy schools?
I've heard of it, but I don't know much about it.
Okay, I was just curious.
Do you know about it, or?
I just, my daughter's principal approached me to see if it would be something that I would help get Traeger on the list or certified or whatever it might be. But I think there's just a couple schools in Oshkosh that have done it so far. So I didn't know if anybody would be familiar.
Would that be where people donate time and volunteer and bring benches and
No, you
do different
actually
things?
create a full program of what you're going to do to improve, you know, whether it's reducing your water use, energy use. And I mean, you fill out like, okay, this is what our usage was last year. This is what it is this. I mean, and it really measures your progress. And I mean, it seems pretty in depth, but so that's why I was
that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a great idea. You know, you put initiatives out there and things you want to accomplish, and you kind of get truly measured on it.
What grade school or
At Traeger.
at Traeger?
So, but I believe Smith is enrolled in the program now. I think it was Smith.
Well, that would be really neat. If anyone has any information, then feel free to email us or let
Would
us
they
know.
Maybe come in and make a
Well, that would be
speak and
great.
answer questions.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see that. If we knew who to contact, who's in charge of that, if we knew who runs that
I
program.
think it's a branch off of, I don't want to say the DNR, but it seems like it kind of connected. You know, the DNR website went to the Green and Healthy School website.
Or we could contact Smith, or what were the other schools?
There was another one, but I don't remember who was
Okay.
on the list. And I was going to actually contact Smith, too, and just see what they're doing or how far things have gone with
Yeah.
them.
That would be great. Excellent. All right. Do I see any other comments or questions? Okay, well, if you find anything out, let us know. Otherwise, we'll try to dig around and see what we can find as well. All right, then let's move down to item 3, approval of minutes. We have both December 4th, 2017 and February 5th, 2018. So let's do December 4th, 2017 first. Do I see a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Seconded.
All right, so moved. And do I see a motion to approve February 5th, 2018 minutes as written?
So moved.
I'll second.
Atta girl.
All right, so moved, thank you. All right, then let's move on to UW Oshkosh Environmental Studies Senior Seminar. Final reports from fall green infrastructure audit for spring. We're gonna do discussion action. So we have Bill Sturm here who can help talk about
terrace tree
proposal. Right, what we wanted to look at were a couple different items. We talked about it last meeting, but we didn't really decide if we wanted to do anything, move forward with any, if we were interested in them. So the terrace tree one we thought might be easier to do something with this year, as well as the bike-friendly certification.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, so there were 4 proposals. As we mentioned last time, if you all remember, at the December 4th meeting is when the students presented to all of us and to some of the common council members that were in attendance, the city manager, some of the relevant department heads. And so they had the terrace tree proposal, the vehicle idling proposal, the League of American Bicyclists bike-friendly community status. So that was a project that they also proposed. And then the residential energy and water conservation ordinance proposal. And Bill was actually here from before, and so fortunately he's here to be able to talk a little bit. He did work with the students on the terrace tree proposal along with myself, and we thought that that was a good one to be able to look at. Like I said, we discussed a number of these, all of these projects in the development review committee meeting, which is pretty much different city staff, department heads, you know, representatives of parks, public works, transportation, economic development, planning and zoning, inspections. You know, sometimes the attorneys will have somebody there, police and fire, and all of them come together before items go to the Board of Zoning Appeals or the Plan Commission, the Common Council. The staff vets some of these and tries to think about different items that need to be addressed with each one of them. They, in their minds, thought that the terrace tree ordinance and the bike-friendly community status would be easier to implement than, say, the vehicle idling ban or the residential energy and water conservation ordinance. So, Bill, I didn't know if you wanted to talk about the terrace tree proposal and
Sure.
what your
yeah,
thoughts are on
I
that.
can. I thought the students did an excellent job in the research and looking at other communities, what specifically what communities do in situations where streets are being entirely rebuilt. Currently, the way it operates is that if a tree is taken for that street reconstruction project, they'll replace another tree in that location or thereabouts.
Same kind?
No, it's generally my determination of what variety or species needs to be
Good.
installed there. But the issue is that it doesn't really fully stock, you know, that improved area very well. So, you know, you maybe have a half a dozen trees there, so you replace 6 trees, but really, you know, it may be a region that's several blocks long where you could fully stock it following construction. And in my mind, I feel that that's a better sustainable approach. Seeing as how we have all the utilities located, it's basically a clean slate. That would be the most opportune time to install trees throughout that area. Unfortunately, that hasn't been funded in the past through either assessments or, you know, folks are already getting assessed for the street reconstruction work, so we understand that there's a significant amount of money that they've already, you know, committed to paying for the improvements. But the installation of trees is really a fairly nominal amount when it's spread over a project of that size. And so what happens now is that, you know, if people request trees, we provide them through our operational budget, which is a limited amount of money generally, and so we can't really easily fully stock those areas following construction, and so it becomes sort of stagnant. I think a nice example of what it looks like when it's done that way would be North Main Street in that bungalow district, when that was a state and federal project. And so there were several trees taken, but through that project we were able to, you know, infill the neighborhood with, you know, fully stocked with trees where they're appropriate. The funding mechanism was discussed in the plan that the students developed. They had a couple of different alternatives. One of them would be trying to spread the cost of those improvements citywide, which would be essentially an increase of, you know, even more nominal amount to all of the taxpayers. I think, in my mind, the better way to probably handle that would be neighborhood specific. So if your street's being redone, those people who are directly affected and they'll have direct value to those trees, passing that cost along to those individuals would probably be more appropriate, and it would be easier in an assessment strategy to do that. So I'm a little curious about what others here think. I believe most of you are probably here for the presentation. A lot of other communities do it this way. It would help our program quite a bit just to have that tree stocking be an automatic as part of these projects, as opposed to waiting until we have funding, or you know, a lot of times, you know.
What's the cost, like $50 to $100 per tree or something, or?
Yeah,
So each home might have 2 or 3 trees they'd pay for?
Yeah, well, if it's spread out through the neighborhood, the cost would even be more nominal than that. There's certain locations, say a corner property, because of visibility restrictions, every house won't necessarily have a tree, just because of the location of underground utilities, proximity to stoplights, stop signs, things like that. So, you know, we're thinking that by spreading the cost through that whole project, you know, it would be a minimal cost on each assessment.
Would it even be noticeable? I mean, do they itemize when you get your street redone? Do they itemize the thing, or you just say this is how much it is?
It would be under landscaping, I would assume.
So it'd be
because,
itemized and they'd see it as an additional cost. but-
Yeah, typically they have a category for landscaping, which is, you know, after the curb is poured and
You gotta put the
sidewalks are
turf
done.
down, the
You know, there's a cost to.
Reseed and stuff.
You know, put topsoil in and reseed, so, you know, the trees would just be another amenity as part of that landscape cost, so. Stephen, do you remember, they said it was like 0.05% of the
Yep.
project, I believe?
I don't remember the exact number, but I know it was very.
0.5%.
Yeah.
Point five?
I have it here.
Okay. So 0.5% is pretty nominal.
How about has it gotten to that stage when they're talking about the Oshkosh Corp and the new roads and the taking down of buildings, et cetera? Is that factored in? Is that talking about new developments and?
Yeah, that would be another situation that I believe that would probably apply. You know, if they're going to redo that corridor, again, they would be able to disperse the cost of those landscape items throughout that district. So it would be helpful. It may not accommodate all of our needs, but, you know, I think it would be at least a step in the right direction. Try to make it an automatic, you know, that, you know, if we're gonna do this, if it's adequate space to plant trees, we should just go ahead and do it. There's certain situations where there may not be adequate space. We know that during the design phase. If it doesn't look like we're gonna be able to fit trees in there, then there is really no need for that assessment. But in areas that are designed and we know that there's gonna be a minimum of 4-foot wide terraces, you know, we could employ that method.
Well, great. So does anyone, I guess the best way to go about this is, we can kind of talk about both issues, or do we have any other questions for Bill? Let's do that first, because Bill was very kind to stay with us and go through this meeting. So does anyone have any other questions about this particular project that we might be able to work on?
Also, I think I saw somewhere in here that right now residents can say, I don't want a tree.
On some of our projects, we bring in contractors to do tree planting, and sometimes we'll run into difficult residents who are very vocal, and typically what happens is the tree will already be installed and somebody is raising a fuss about it. We've been kind of proactive when we're working in the neighborhoods to notify people in advance, and if they've got an issue, you know, we've just moved those trees to other locations. Really, we're able to plant anywhere on public property, but in the interest of trying to have good communication and a good, you know, supportive neighborhood, you know, we try to convince them that having a tree is a good thing, obviously, but, you know, we're also trying to make it a little more friendly project. Most communities don't do that, and but I feel that it has worked fairly well doing it that way. Not everyone likes trees. We understand that, but
Most people.
and we have some interesting reasons why people don't want them, of course, but
There was something in the report about some people might object because it blocks their view of the lake or something like that. Is that?
Well, there was a proposed.
certain neighborhoods, yeah, and We haven't seen
There's a
it a lot
solution.
in this community, but some communities, you know, have folks that have, want solar access. If you plant a large shade tree in front of a house that has solar energy, you know, they're not gonna be very happy with us, so, you know, and those do tend to get litigious. We haven't quite gotten that far here yet, but, you know, it's always a consideration. There may be.
You're talking about
Valid.
trees on the terrace, though, aren't you?
Right, yeah,
So
there
if
may
they-
be a valid
So
reasons
if they have
why.
panels on their roof, the tree's not gonna be that close to their, unless they have a very small front yard.
It may or may not, but, you know,
Yeah.
that's, you know, there have been communities
Where that's an issue.
sued because of, you know, public trees affecting,
Right,
you know,
yeah.
someone's ability to acquire solar energy.
Yeah, I suppose
So,
if they
you
have a
know.
small front yard or something.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a myriad of reasons why people may not. Generally, we've found that people are very receptive to it. I think, you know, once they understand that the city is gonna care for this tree for its lifetime, you know, replace, you know, prune, that sort of thing, people are a little more open to it. But I think, you know, what a lot of people come out and say is, we don't want a tree because we don't wanna rake leaves and, you know, whatever, you know, so try to work with people as best we can.
And it sounded like there was good coverage for that kind of. It sounded like we might be able to, the city might be able to work with people on the placement possibly, or was I reading that wrong?
Yeah, well, you know, often on the terraces, the placement is kind of driven by the location of the underground utilities.
Right, right.
So that's, you know, I would still be involved in where they're going to go.
Yeah.
What's gonna work best, you know, some people want multiple trees, maybe it's not gonna accommodate multiple trees, so we set it up so that it's an organized, multi-species type planting, so.
And it sounds like we wanted to, because initially when we did the terrace tree subject, when we first tackled it, it was an ordinance. And from what it sounds like from this document is that it would best be, it was already recently revised, so if we made something that would be placed as an addendum to that ordinance, that would be more effective, or a policy. But I don't know if
Yeah.
I think an addendum would probably be more,
We
something that you
discussed
could
that,
use.
and it seems to, everyone seems to feel that it would probably be more of just a policy.
Okay.
As opposed to, you know, recrafting the ordinance, since we've just recently adopted a new tree ordinance. So a policy would be something that we would pretty much operate internally with, so Public Works would be, as they're doing their designs, they would contact the forester, we'd come up with a tree plan for the neighborhood, communicate with the residents about what that was going to be, and then do the assessment, if, you know, and then once the project is nearing completion, we'd have the trees installed per our specifications. So, yeah, it doesn't have to be an ordinance revision or anything like that.
Would a policy be strong enough if one person out of 10 objected to the trees on the street or something, would it be able to overcome?
I believe so, yes.
Huh. Yeah. I suppose you try to not make it confrontational, you try to work with it and
Right,
make them happy.
right. And which we do with any of those projects anyway, you know, there's a myriad of issues that come up, you know, in a street reconstruction project, but,
The current policy for trees, for existing trees that the city replaces them free, is that the current policy?
yes, yeah, and that's
That's what I
where
thought.
we come into, you know, we have a limited amount of money. We operate a tree planting program that's either on a request basis, or if we take a tree, we offer a replacement tree. But the funds are limited. The other thing that we've been doing a lot of, aside from working with projects like Taking Root, which is a public-private partnership, which provides trees for various areas within the city. We also have been working with NeighborWorks, which is planting trees in specific neighborhood association areas. So in those cases, the neighbors are actually requesting trees. So they help us canvass the neighborhood, get folks on board, say we're going to do some tree planting, and it works rather well. So it's not the city saying we're going to just come in and plant trees. Feel like it. The neighbors are all on board and promoting it, and then they also help us with watering and that sort of thing too. So it kind of ties everyone together a little bit as more of a community program than just the city coming in and doing it. So
It's something that's ongoing now.
yes, yeah.
And is there a title with that, or is it just tree planting in neighborhoods?
We've been doing it through the last few years, I'd say 3 years, we've been doing it specifically in established neighborhood association areas.
Okay.
Because the funding has gone to the planning department, specific to the neighborhoods. So that's what we've been concentrating on here. Neighborhood associations aren't comprehensive at this point yet, so there's certain areas that may be undergoing a reconstruction, but they don't have a neighborhood association. We're always looking for other funding mechanisms to help us with that. So the street reconstruction issue has always been kind of a big deal for us, because, you know, Oshkosh has been very proactive in trying to rebuild a lot of streets, but yet there aren't funds to fill in with trees. And so it just sits and waits until either we have, you know, private funding or a grant or something like that to get that work done. So we're always looking for other ways to do things, of course. So.
What if we had this policy in place and we give you the tools to kind of ask for that in your budget, right?
It
To
would
get
it
these
would be
trees.
through the capital improvements.
Oh yeah, I suppose
which
through
would
the
be
tree,
just,
yeah,
you know,
the city streets.
part of the street reconstruction tab.
Yep. So that makes sense. So what can we do as a board? Should we, I mean, would us writing up a policy or working with you or other city staff to write something up, would that be where we'd want to go next
Or
if
do
we
you
wanted to
simply want
take
an
action?
endorsement?
Right?
My understanding is, you know, I've been on board with the idea, and I think, from what I understand, is a recommendation from SAB would help drive it forward, and I believe that it would be as simple as
Sure.
that. So, and then we would, you know, staff would work on making that policy active, so that,
Sure.
you know, in subsequent projects, it would be something that we would work with the engineers on, including in the preliminary plans for reconstruction. They'll tell me how wide the terrace is, I'll look at the situation, say, yes, it's appropriate to do it, and then it won't happen in all cases, but, you know, at least, you know, where it's practical, we could do it that way.
How would you want the recommendation worded? We could do that now, probably.
Well, I don't know if we were able to go through the whole wording right now. I mean, would it be, because I know in the past we've done recommendations as a formal document that's, you know, written up a little bit. You might provide some background and different things like that. So maybe if a couple of people wanted to work on it before next month, and we can kind of, you know, banter some wordage back and forth via email, then maybe that would be an effective way. And then we could bring it to next month's meeting.
Know, like, how you would want it written, how we should write the recommendation? Is that something you have a pretty good idea about, or?
I
Is
think
it something
if you
want us to
reference,
write, or?
if you reference the study that the students did, I think a lot of it is contained in that. And so it could be just a short memo regarding, and I can help you with that too, just
Sure, I could work on that.
recommendation to, where practical, install terrace trees as part of street reconstruction projects.
Yeah, usually what we do is, you know, whatever recommendations you as board members come up with, then we can put it into a memo, you know, city letterhead and all that, and make sure it gets addressed to the right people, whether it be other staff or departments or common council or city manager or whoever. Yep.
Okay.
You want to have something along those lines to put in the minutes? Or is just an agreement that,
Yeah, going forward, do we want a small working committee like you all were saying? Do we have a few people that want to volunteer or?
I don't think you really need it from what's already said. But I think there ought to be something in the minutes that there was general agreement to go ahead and
Go forward with
draft
it.
something for the next meeting.
Yeah, we would just have to know who is going to work on it so it gets done.
Steven?
Okay.
Steven,
I can work
That's
with,
the spirit.
you two get together and put something together.
I think the two of us could probably,
We could draft something
Yeah.
and then you could review it at, your next meeting and then, if you feel it's appropriate, move it
Fully
forward.
discussed.
sure,
Make
Sorry,
sure
Adam.
Yeah, we
it
can
gets on
meet
the
and-
next meeting.
we can do that.
I got that right? Adam?
Yeah, right.
Okay, great.
That makes
I'll
sense to
put
everybody?
staff.
I mean, is it
Yeah.
something that you
Can be-
feel is
Totally.
important or?
Yeah, I think this is
Thank you.
something that's been on our agenda for a really long time, and now it's finally been made easy for us to move forward with it, at least in a more beneficial way. At least there's a policy in place, and maybe in the future when the ordinance is getting redone again, then you can throw it in there as part of the ordinance. Maybe, I don't know if that'd be beneficial
Sure,
or
yeah.
not, but
That's
I think-
always a possibility too, or as you mentioned earlier, an addendum is an option too. But yeah, I think, the students referenced a number of other communities that do it this way too. So it's not like we're reinventing the wheel here. It's
Right.
It's been done before and as a matter of course, so.
All right, that sounds good. Thank you so much for your help, Bill, and
You're welcome, thank you.
look forward to hearing more about that next month. Thank you so much.
Want me to stick around for leadership awards, or you got that?
No, we've got that.
Okay,
I
we
think that's
can
pretty well.
be able to cover that. Would be a brief update, I think.
great, thanks. Have a nice evening.
You too.
You as well.
you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so did we want to talk about the bike-friendly Oshkosh portion of that? That was the other project that we had talked about that might be, easy fruit to grab this year. Do we have any updates since last time we talked? I doubt it.
I know I think that I might have brought it up last time, but what I remember hearing was I had talked to the staff person that she handles the bike and ped or the advisory committee. And she said that that is something that they are interested in looking at, but I know their plan update is their priority right now.
Oh, right.
So that's the thing. So it might be kind of a long-term goal for them.
Is it something they want to just do on their own or something they want us to have help them with?
It sounded like they would take care of it. I mean, I could talk to her a little bit more about the logistics of, how we might be able to help, but I know that's something that they would be definitely interested in, and it's just kind of a long-term goal. I can see if there's something we can do that might be able to help the application process for them, then maybe we can do something, but I'd have to look into it a little bit more.
In other words, we can wait for their request.
Yeah, I know for them, like I said, they're not going to be doing it tomorrow or anything. It's on their radar, but it's kind of more of a long-term thing.
Oh, and we have plenty on our plate this year as well with our sustainability plan update. And,
Definitely.
we can get going on the tree ordinance thing. We can wait to hear about the bike-friendly Oshkosh next month, see if, they want any help with that. And we could certainly, I'm sure that there would be support for that.
Sure.
If we have time, between the other stuff, I think that would be a good thing to go for. Did anyone else have anything that they wanted to mention about the senior seminar project that they thought would be worth working on this year, or that they had any comments about?
I mean, I really like the vehicle idling one. I just don't know if timeliness, if that's really the best thing to do you know what I mean, to put our stake in at this time. But I think in the future, I think it's a really interesting one that I personally felt was really cool.
That strikes me as a baby step type plan where maybe you just
Oh,
start working
yeah.
with the schools first and
Yeah.
have
Yep.
like no idling around the schools,
Right.
and then maybe if it goes well, then you can
Right.
start to expand it out citywide.
And then
Yeah.
doing the whole.
Yeah.
I felt like they just took a couple big leaps from the get-go that I agree we would need to baby step first. So maybe it's just something we keep on the radar or we look into at some time, but I just feel like as a whole, that's a lot to digest. And I felt like it was just kind of sped through.
I thought it was interesting that that was on the sustainability strategies score sheet.
And I think that's actually where we got some of these proposals.
Oh, that
'Cause we were
makes
looking at
sense.
that and,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think it would be good, though, to go first through the schools, and maybe they could even, in the beginning of the semester, if we worked with them, maybe for, I don't know if we'd be able to even for next year, but, you know, it's maybe for the 2019-2020 packet, welcome packet or something for new students, like information on idling and things like that,
Right.
just kind of going with the education.
Educational thing rather than not
Mhm.
just-
And then if you can save, in first year, we didn't have the idling and it cost X dollars for gas. And then we put in not idling around schools, and wow, the amount spent on gas went down. Maybe this would be something that citizens would be interested in having their gas bill go down.
Mm-hmm.
But they would need to have some kind of records before and after the,
Yeah, I was
Proposal
wondering
went
if
in.
people have looked at how long people idle their cars waiting for their kids to come out. I mean, if somebody's actually sat down and tried to observe it or.
or the
take
buses.
record. Now, was there a thing with the buses don't want to turn off, or?
Well, that was for Go Transit specifically. These weren't school buses in
Oh,
this.
so that would
This was
be-
Go Transit, like a city
So our school
bus.
buses are Cobuson buses for the most
Right,
part? Or our
generally, but they weren't included in
Okay.
that aspect of the buses in here.
Well, and I can tell you, I will sit in the Traeger parking lot for 15 minutes, and there are a lot of vehicles running before I even got in. the
Right, it
parking
just
lot.
would be nice to have like hard data rather than.
It would.
You know, rather than just saying, you know what I'm saying? There's this many, typically, you know, do a survey, count the cars on, you know, I'm not sure how you do a survey like that, but.
And I guess I didn't read through that one recently just because it wasn't one that we had selected that we wanted to pursue this year possibly. But maybe we don't have to reinvent the wheel. If there's some kind of informational flyer that we could kind of, you know, work off of and used as kind of a foundation to make some kind of educational piece that the Oshkosh Area School District could use. That would be something to look at.
The thing would be to talk to them and see if, how, I
Yeah.
suppose with the schools, you could argue for the issue of air quality too around the schools.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how big a difference.
Yeah, that's a huge aspect of what the seniors did in their study too, was air quality. That was kind of the point.
So, yeah, I think the first step then would be to contact the school district then and see what we could do, how we can work with them to educate parents and different people that, you know, idle around the school.
I can look into that.
Great, thank you.
Not a problem.
Okay. Any other thoughts? Okay. Let's move on. Okay, so we have, next item is, did we want to move up the Environmental Leadership Award? Did we need to do that still for anybody, or no?
I don't think
No?
so.
Okay. All right, I'll just move on to the next one then. The January 9th, 2018 SAB workshop and goal setting. We have an update and action scheduled for today. I don't know if you wanted to talk about this first, Stephen, but I know
Yeah.
that we had some kind of areas to fill in. We hadn't really set specifics for some of these, and I think, was that our...
Yeah, I think there was that, and then my big question, particularly for me, was ICLEI.
Yep.
I took it off
right.
for now. I mean, I can put it back on. We're supposed to renew our ICLEI membership, so that's why I'm kind of wondering, you know, kind
Right.
of looking for a firm decision as far as do we want to do that? You know, is that something that the board wants to do or no? I think last month we had some discussion on maybe that wouldn't be the best area to invest all of our energy and time, you know, with the sustainability plan update and some of the other initiatives, the student projects and stuff. the green infrastructure audit that we're working on. But I just wanted to make sure before proceeding any further and going and either renewing it or not.
So I think the action we're looking for here is, and do we have to have that as like an official action to not focus on ICLEI this year, or we just kind of decide? I mean, I think we can just kind of say, you know, let's, or do we need, yeah, we might need official action in a sense of impacts if they want to spend.
It might be nice. I would say it'd be ideal to have an official action on it.
Okay.
Just so that, you know, they could say, hey, the board decided this,
Yep.
because it is, you know, it's like $1,200 membership renewal. So that was the only thing. And then I can give them a firm answer with
Right.
that.
And I was one of those people that said it takes a lot of time. It would take a lot of effort. And I mentioned that last month. I've worked on this extensively, and we are kind of working on old data, but the amount of time that it would take to do a whole new inventory and everything, that would just put us behind again. It's just a very long process. And I think we got through the first two milestones, the first one especially with really enthusiastic people that were all about it, and they could invest the time and energy needed to get that done. And we had help with milestone 2 with the I'm gonna forget the acronym now, the Northeast Central Regional,
Or East Central?
East Central,
East
yeah.
Central Wisconsin
East-
Regional Planning Commission, yep.
Yes, thank you.
Yep.
So I think without further support and helping us write, the city does not want to approve milestone 2 without going through milestone 3. We were to actually in milestone 3 have to say how we are going to accomplish the goals that we set in milestone 2. So we'd have to come up with concrete ways that the city could do this. And I think that would include a lot of discussion and work with city staff, like a committee that meets every so often, and to go through and do this. Personally speaking, I don't know if we have the time to commit to that this year because of our update to our sustainability plan, because that's going to be big in and of itself. And I think we're going to be needing to do a lot with that. But if anyone has, I don't want to speak for everyone, if someone is really enthusiastic about it and says, hey, we shouldn't drop this, we want to keep working on it, please speak up.
But don't the other things that we're doing actually essentially drive the efforts towards the third milestone? I mean, the green tier thing and all these other things seem to be building the database and the case for the next step.
Mm-hmm.
So sitting back and letting these other things run through would essentially get most of the job done without trying to really work that much harder.
That's what I'm worried about. Like, I don't want us to waste, or not waste, but spend all of our volunteer extra time that we spend on this, trying to come up with the verbiage and past the third milestone when we could be taking these other actions that take actions now, basically, that can help us do the same thing.
Here's what comes after milestone 3. Like, what is that end?
Milestone 4, I believe, is implementation at that point, but I don't have my milestones out in front of me.
Okay. So how many milestones are there total? Like, how far into this process? So 4th is the
4 or
end.
5.
I think
End
there are
of it.
4.
Okay.
Okay.
If we don't.
We're
work on
roughly
this year,
halfway.
we can work on it in a future year?
I did ask the people at ICLEI, and they did say that, if we didn't renew it this year, we could just, we
Sure.
could end up starting it in the future, just go back, renew the membership, and
You can take like a pause.
yeah.
Okay.
And if we're not actively using their resources, then yeah, does it make sense to
For here.
pay for it for a year, or maybe we just, in the future, maybe we pay for it when we can actually go back to pursuing it, using the resources that they have and all that.
Right. So maybe we just take a pause and then go back to it.
Want to put that in a motion?
Sure.
Mhm.
I'll second it.
All right, so we want to call our motion to not renew our ICLEI membership for this year, and to table it until a future year when we're able to dedicate the time and resources to milestone 3.
Yeah, we can get a vote, that'd be good.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Any opposed? No? Okay. Seeing none, All right, great. The ayes have it. Okay, so did anyone else have any thoughts, or do we want to talk about anything else on this, these goals for this year? I mean, we've talked about government action item 6. We're looking at the tree policy. It looks like that's what we want to implement at least right away. And we'll get an update on the bike-friendly issue if we're able to help with that at all. So I would say responsible individuals, at least we can put staff for trees. Thank you, Stephen and Bill. Is there anything else that we needed to, let's see. I think there are some things that we have, just SAB for. The only thing, I think if we wanted to actually have a rainbow workshop, I think that should be more fleshed out if we were going to do that this year. I know we talked some about it last
Yeah, we
month.
talked very briefly about it, and
Was there a committee formed? Was that what we?
we had talked, I think we talked about forming a committee, but I don't remember us actually putting one together, having people volunteer to be on it. I think we kind of said, well, we should do that as a step for having a rain barrel workshop.
We should do it. Okay. Well, and I think we were talking about possibly not going through the Fox Valley Watershed Alliance, maybe swinging it through our own resources that we have, because we have access to barrels. We could get our own kits. Would there be, it sounded like Margie. I mean, I'm just going to go ahead because, I finally get to add Margie to something. She's not here. Oh, that feels so good.
Hopefully she's not watching.
Right? Yeah, Margie, you've been added. Well, I know that she's the one that has access to barrels, so
Sure.
she would have to be a part of it anyway,
Yeah.
and I know she has interest in those things. Is anyone else interested in working on the Rain Barrel Workshop?
Adam.
Adam? Okay. Robert? Okay. Anyway, did I miss anybody? Okay. Good deal, because I think there was talk about wanting to do it. I mean, maybe even spring, summer. I mean, early summer if we wanted to do it, because I think there was talk of wanting to get them in before the season really started.
Yeah, so like late
yeah.
spring, early summer, something like that.
So, yeah. If we wanted to, let's see. Should figure out a time when be able to get together. I'm not part of it, so I don't want to be like, yeah, when do you guys want to get together? But maybe we can just talk briefly afterwards, and we can set a date for when, just to meet to go over those things.
Sure.
Or even, could send out a doodle or something when people are
Mm-hmm.
available. To be able to follow up with an email, Stephen, and just send
Yep.
a doodle or something, and then
And
get that started.
send it out to the 3 that volunteered, or
Yep.
Okay.
Margie, Adam, and Robert.
sure.
Getting stuff done. Let's do this.
Would we still go forward with number 1 research milestone 3 report on here? Now that we just said to pause.
No. That would be removed.
And I think I removed it for the one that's in the packet for
Yes.
this
Okay.
For this meeting.
this meeting.
Yeah.
It might be from last meeting that you
Yes,
have
I'm
there.
looking at last meetings.
Sure.
Yep. Fine. Okay, and obviously the Support Minami Park Shoreline project through volunteer cleanups, that is kind of general. It's something that Minami Park Shoreline will ask, if anybody can come out on certain dates and everything, but it's not something that we need to actively have other people looking into and pursuing at this point since I organize, so I will let you guys know. Create education program for kids. I think that's something that we can do in our spare time here. Some of those, putting bins at the farmer's market. Did we want to assign anybody to that? The recycling cleanup, trying to get more bins in the city. To kind of look into that. Is that something that we want as an active goal starting right now.
Yeah. I mean, the idea of coming up with a recycling bin for the farmer's market, I think is really good and good advertising and puts a good face on things. And when we were talking about it, there's a way of, we gotta come up with some way of getting that done. Farmer's market starts on June 1st, something like that?
Yeah. First weekend in June. So maybe the best step for that one, I don't know if that would be the city or if that would probably be the Oshkosh Farmers Market downtown, contacting them and seeing what we could do if they were wanting to put those out. Because I wonder if they would just be like spread throughout for the event. Is that what we're thinking? Or that the city should put them up so that they can be used for things such as the...
Well, up to this point, the people who run the farmers market have been fairly resistant to the idea of recycling.
Can I comment on this?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because I actually reached out to the director towards the end of the season. It's always kind of bothered me about not having the recycling bins there. And they have tried to have them. They end up spending the time sorting out because people use them also for trash. And so then their volunteers are taking a lot of extra time to actually sort it out because the city will not set anything up, according to what the director told me. So that's really when we were talking, it's like, okay, if we just have a bin actually in the tent or, your setup, then it's getting people in one spot, perhaps, but.
We can give them a good sales pitch.
If you just had one bin where you could monitor what people were putting in it, then would work rather than a bunch of bins.
Do we have our spot for this year?
Not yet, and actually I think that's coming up actually, but no, I submitted the materials. I just have to hear confirmation back from them. Okay. I just haven't heard back officially yet.
Be like recycling bin at the sustainability advisory board table, and
We'll have some people who will look for it.
Many people there, yeah. And I mean, even have I'm sure if they are supportive at the Oshkosh Farmers Market to promote that kind of thing, then if we could, put up temporary signage to just be like, oh, recycling bin this way, SAB tent or whatnot. Then maybe we could go through it that way, just try to do this, and then maybe add something as part of, adding more recycling bins in the city as something that we could do as part of our sustainability plan. Is something that we would promote and put it through kind of that way that we think the city should do this.
Yeah, I don't know, I just kind of felt like at the farmer's market, it's more of like education, like educating the people, what is recyclable, etc. And then if we can show that there's great interest in that, then we can push that forward to the city of like, hey, we were at the farmer's market, this is what the feedback we received. And then, so is there a way we could implement recycling bins throughout the city at more events or in the parks or something like that? Like if we can show the interest, we can push it that way. That was just how I envisioned it.
We could do that this year, see if we get, people interested at the farmers market, see what they say, people just stopping by and using it. And if we're able to fit into our sustainability plan somewhere, if it's not already in there anyway, then we can also have the backup like, well, hey, we also put this in our sustainability plan. This is something that we want to work towards. And, hey, we tried this out and people seem to be receptive to it. Then we kind of have a couple ways to go with that.
Right.
I think that would be good.
One of the things I thought of is to get one of the Main Street businesses to sponsor, or, they would actually get the recycle bin from the city. I don't think there's a charge for those things, is there?
I am not sure. I'd have to check.
And if there's no charge to it, then if the recycle bin could stay on their property, and on Saturdays we'd reel it over to our booth and say this business supports the recycling program, and get a little sign or something on it.
Sure. Would then that business, would the business be responsible in the meantime of sorting through everything if it overfills or anything, or would it just kind of be like we deal with it on that Saturday? Well, I have a feeling because we're only going to do it like once or twice a month, yeah. So I would only worry that it would get full, people use it as garbage, and then we,
You're sitting right.
But it's in our
Right
booth.
in front of
We're
it.
there with it.
You're there with it.
Yeah, but not have, oh, I thought you meant have it out, like,
Oh.
No,
between.
Have it part of the.
Oh, it's part of like
So
the
you're
SAB booth.
sitting there, so if you see
Yeah.
somebody go to throw something in that doesn't belong in there, you stop them.
Yeah, no, I think that's perfect. That's good. I thought we were saying, maybe have somebody sponsor it and it's at that business, like
Oh.
out
Oh.
and about until, okay, gotcha. But yeah, that's a good idea. I like that.
Otherwise, we'd have to find a way to move it and store it and do all this other
Yeah,
stuff.
and yeah, for someone to be able to do that, it would have to be
Right.
pretty small otherwise. Yeah.
I like that idea. Could someone look up, find out like what the potential cost of it could be, and then we could just start reaching out to local businesses?
Might help to know where the location is too.
Yes, once we
Yeah.
know of the location, like maybe for April, if we can find out what the like, I don't know if they'll tell us by April where our
They
location
should.
will be.
I think the farmer's market will at least let us know if we got our spot back and all
Okay.
that.
And then would it be easy for you to find out how much?
I can
Big
look into
cost,
how
or can we-
much the cost would be for the actual bin.
Okay.
And then if somebody else wants to like look into location.
Oh, of course, I wouldn't, yeah.
Yeah, I'd be
I
more
think-
than happy to talk to
Yeah,
the
no, I
businesses
would
on Main
too.
Street.
Yep,
Sure,
so
that'd be
once,
great.
I live there, so.
nice.
Yeah, I can look into the cost for the bins and.
Yeah,
maybe-
because then next meeting, and then we'll know where we're gonna be in our spot, and then we know which businesses would be best to contact, because we'll be right there, instead of having to haul it down across the street and whatnot, so that would be cool. Awesome. All right, good deal. So does anyone else have any more thoughts on any action items that they wanted for this year, or ones they thought didn't fit that were on there for this year?
We've got a fair amount there.
Yeah. Well, shoot for the stars, right? Shoot for the moon, shoot for the stars, something like that. Even if we land in the clouds, it's okay. All right, let's move on then to the green tier score sheet. We have an action.
Ideally, yes. So this was something that I think I brought to everybody here last year. So after we joined the Green Tier Legacy Communities, part of what you do is you fill out the score sheet, kind of grade yourselves, establish a baseline as to where you are and what you're doing in terms of sustainability strategies and initiatives. And then you set goals for the next years. And so I don't think we ever really officially set goals for last year, and it was our first year too. But I was wondering if for this year, if we wanted to set some goals. I know that terrace tree thing, if that's in here, I'll have to verify that, but that'd be an example, of something we could set as a goal, and then if we get that done, then we could award ourselves points for that. There might be a few other things on here that maybe stood out to other people, board members.
Okay, so we're looking for anything off of this action list that we want to do this year to increase our score.
Yeah, ideally, yep.
Okay, so that would be like the canopy, adopt tree preservation, well, that's a preservation ordinance though. I think specifically they were talking about not doing a preservation ordinance because they said that can make it tricky to get rid of trees that are diseased, and
Definitely, and I remember that coming up too, actually.
that's why we have an NA for that, yeah.
Yep.
Require trees to be planted in all new developments. We already have a 2 for that, so I don't know if that's even something that we would increase our score in then, because we already.
Yeah, that might be covered there.
What? Water protection, come on, people. Establish 75-foot natural vegetation zone by surface water. Is that like 75 foot, like from a paved area to the water, or can that be like the other way? Because I'm pretty sure the Millers Bay restoration area, would that count?
That, I wonder. Guess I have to look at where the water is and the distance and.
Yeah, because I mean, it's 30-ish feet from the paved path to the water, but then the length of it is pretty substantial.
Sure. Yeah, we could look into that and see if Miller's Bay might.
'Cause that might be, yeah. I also saw that on page 2 of 8, under electric vehicles, provide public charging stations. I don't know if this would fall under that because it's, I know Quick Trip, like we know some places have charging stations, it's just not necessarily public. There's one on the university grounds too, I think.
Sure, and I think Festival, the new
Festival
one.
has, what, 5, something like that?
Yeah, so I mean, they made some headway there. So I guess we could say that we've started to do something there.
Mhm.
Festival, do you pay for your charging?
That's my, yeah, I haven't,
Okay, use a credit card or coins or something?
I should go look at it.
Yeah, okay.
Not having an electric vehicle, I just drive by.
I'd be interested to see how they have that set up, because I don't think, as far as, at least at Quick Trip, I didn't see any way for you to have to pay for it. It just looked like a station. I know I saw one on, I think that's the one on 9th.
They also have one on 20th,
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
20th in Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
How long do they allow people to charge?
That I don't know. I don't know if it has a set time. I know there's like a little sign that says electric vehicle charging station,
Huh.
but I don't know if they specify. There's just kind of the hookup there.
I think the ones at Festival, the question was too, I think a few months ago, was if it's for every kind of electric car, because they were Tesla specific chargers. And it has Tesla on the outside of all their chargers.
Oh, so
Right.
perhaps
Yeah.
it was
Is it
sponsored
only
by.
for- Yeah.
Sure. But I think the ones at the university, that would almost be a public one too.
Oh, okay.
I mean, generally they don't allow public parking, but if you were charging your electric vehicle, I don't know.
No,
Don't quote me on that.
There's 2 of them in the ramp next to Scott, and there's 2
Oh,
in the
nice.
parking lot right in front of the Union.
Yep, that's the one that I was, that I'd seen it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
there's 4 of them altogether.
Yep. That's great.
I gotta say, just for water use conservation, we already use block rates in the city of Oshkosh for our water, right?
I gotta find that one actually here.
Do you know what page that's on?
Is that page 4?
Oh, there we are, yep.
Water use conservation, I've gotta use block rates and flat rates to encourage water conservation. We have a block rate structure.
Oh, okay.
But I guess back to point, so you want us to look through this just for things this year or next year or later in the fall?
Yeah, we could say this year, I'd say. I mean, I know there's actually one that I just saw. It's not a lot of points, but there was something about removing invasive species. Trying to remember which page that was on, because I did see that. Oh, here, vegetation management on page 3 of 8. So over in Sawyer Creek area, I mean, they have the whole buckthorn removal there. That's kind of been a project that I think Bill and Ray have been working on. And so that's something that the neighborhood, I think, applied for funding for that. And that's a project that's going to be underway. So that's actually something that could be a goal for this year, or I could put down as a goal, because I believe it's still in progress. I have to check on the status of it, but I know that is a project that would be right under removing invasive species. So
Now let me backtrack. Are we working with the ES students again
we are.
this semester?
Yes.
We have talked. Misty's doing it, right?
Yep, she is.
And have you talked about what they're doing?
They're actually working on that green infrastructure audit project.
That's right. Yep.
Yep. So I'm working with them on that, but I am not sure if that falls underneath anything in here. I could take a look.
I mean, we can be definitely active, and maybe everyone can look at this whole score sheet and see how that they can add that into their section of the sustainability plan. I think that would be a very
Sure.
effective way to go,
Mhm.
because some of these, I think it might be hard to add more goals for this year while we're doing that as well, because I think we have a good amount of goals on here. But if you see anything on there that, you know, you can add to your section, that would make sense. That it looks like, you know, we still need to reach that, then that, I think we should do that. And obviously the things that we see that we're already doing, then great, let's make sure that we're getting our points for that.
Yeah, because there's a few things that we are doing that we might not have been doing even last year that we could add points, I can see here.
Mm-hmm. So, and even, I think that was the question, was the wastewater biogas captured and used in operations? Was that, I mean, technically, yes. Because it's captured by the biodigester, yeah.
What page was that?
That's page 4.
Oh, okay.
Under water and wastewater infrastructure management.
Oh, sure.
The wastewater biogas is captured.
Oh, it is, okay.
Yep, it's captured by the campus biodigester. It's
Sure.
sent over there, so,
Okay, so we could probably put some points down for that then.
yeah.
Could we get any points for the city finishing, Riverwalk thing on the other side over by the Oshkosh truck parking lot?
Potentially, yeah, I could,
Cause that was basically abandoned land between those two bridges and they're, don't know when they're gonna get done, but I see them out there working every day.
sure.
And would the thing with the Oshkosh Truck Corporation, and instead of turning it into a golf course, turning it into a public park, get on the sheet anyplace? 'Cause that's a recreational, essentially creating well, it's a golf course is a limited recreation, but then it'd be open to the public and more people would be involved, and they're actually gonna finish that little section of the Riverwalk Trail too,
Mm-hmm.
which was locked off from the public up to this point.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I'll look, I can look into this too and see if either of those, the completion of the Riverwalk in either of those locations would potentially qualify for something underneath, or under one of these categories.
Well, it's the physical activity and access section, page 6 of 8.
Oh yeah, here it is. Yeah, it looks like we already, I think when Lizzie filled this out, she already gave us some points, so it'd probably just add to that. I mean, obviously, I think we already scored ourselves at the max for those, but be another initiative that we could note that we're doing for that category. May not give us any more points, but at least it's something that, you know, is of note.
One more question on that water and wastewater infrastructure area. I don't know if this would be double dipping, but the last one on there is set goals for increasing the recovery of resources from wastewater for energy generation, heat or electricity, and fertilizer. Certainly, I don't think fertilizer, we're going that route yet. I don't know. But heat and electricity, that's what the biogas is being used for.
Oh, okay.
It's sent over to the CHP, which is combined heat and power. So both heat and energy is created from reuse of that biogas.
Sure.
So FYI, if we can get some points for that, obviously wouldn't get a full 5 because we're not checking out the fertilizer thing yet that I'm aware of.
Maybe like a 3-ish, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, we have the heat and electricity.
Sure.
Go there. Good deal.
Yeah.
So, are we on board with that? Do we want to just take a real good look at this when we're looking at our sections and just implement it where we can? I think that'd be a good, okay.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So then we can still do something with it and, you know, just really put it into what we're wanting to do without making it a separate thing that is going to take additional work.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, farmer's market update. We already kind of talked about it. Do we have more updates on it?
Not really. The deadline for getting the dates submitted, the paperwork submitted to them at the farmer's market was February 26th.
And you've done that.
So
You
I got
got
that
that
in.
right?
Yep, I got it in. They confirmed that they received it. And so I selected 4 dates based on what we talked about at the last meeting, based on people's availability and all that. got them the city insurance and everything that they required for liability purposes. So now they have it on their desk, and then they'll take a look at it, and they'll get back to us like they did last year, I'm sure. But they should have everything, and we should be good to go, and just waiting for them to confirm that we'll in fact be there at that specific location for those 4 dates. And then whenever I get it, I'll let everybody know, and let everybody know if anything changed.
Great. That sounds good.
Yep.
Thank you, Stephen.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Environmental Leadership Award. So we have an update for that because there was a meeting right before this one where we talked over some changes to the award document, just kind of structuring that and how people will nominate and all that good stuff.
It'll be sent out in email.
Yep. I'll send out the revised one. Ken Friedman, who was here for the meeting and helped put together this document, and Bill Sturm was also here, and we all had some input and stuff. They helped us revise it, and then Ken revised it here before the meeting. So I'll just send out the updated proposal to everybody.
Yep, and then we can, if everyone can look at that before the next meeting, then we can take action on it and decide, you know, is this what we want to be the structure of this award? And that would be great.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so next we have the Live Green update.
And for that, I don't know if I mentioned this or if Margie mentioned it at the last meeting, but what we heard back from the folks at Silver Star Brands is that they, I think, are going to wait. They're going to try to plan an event for next year, because they just figured that there wouldn't be enough time to start planning for this year and to do it in the spring based on like where we are now. So they really want to get some more of their employees to come. That's one of their big goals, and then to get some more people from the public. So I think they're going to postpone it to next year, and we're going to start maybe looking at planning for next year as opposed to trying to push something in this year or cram something in.
That's probably a good idea.
Yep.
I realize now that I skipped my own little update here. That really wasn't by design, I promise. Minami Shoreline Restoration. Sorry, so I'm going to go back to that one. I do actually have an update. So we're going to have our opening meeting for the season on Thursday, March 15th. That's going to be at 6:30. And we're going to have it on the UW Oshkosh campus at the Environmental Research and Innovation Center. That's at 783 Pearl Avenue here in Oshkosh. It's right along the river, just behind the Culf Sports Center. So I want to coordinate with parking based on how many people we have attending the meeting. So if anyone is interested in attending, I'll put an event out on the Facebook site this week. The Minami Shoreland, or Minami Park Shoreland. Friends of Minami Park Shoreland. There we go. So if you're on Facebook, please add us, and then you'll see the event go up this week, and then you can RSVP that way, or you can shoot me an email. My email is Michelle with 2 L's. That's MICHELLE .Bogden, BOGDEN, like a bog in a den. That's at gmail.com. So if you're planning on attending, please email me so that I can make the appropriate accommodations for parking for that. And yeah, we'll do that 6:30 p.m. Thursday, March 15th. Hope to see you there. All right, I think that's it. Besides, do we have any agenda items that people want to propose for our next meeting?
I can just
The
give
ones
it.
you already talked about.
Besides what we already have on here, yeah. If there's anything
Yeah,
new.
just give an update on whatever I come up with from the school district about vehicle idling.
That would be great. Let's see. That's a good point. So we want to talk about, maybe go over the advisory board goals, just any updates with those? Do we want to have that as just one action item? Because then we can talk about the bins with that. And And so we can do, you know, the idling with the schools and the bins if we get any information on where we're going to have our booth for the summer, and how much it would cost for a recycling bin, and then we can have that as one action item, and we can talk about all those things at that time.
And I
Kind of
could-
like we did today.
Yeah, and then under that goals, I can also put in there, like that terrace tree.
Yep.
Follow up
Yep,
on
that
the-
would be
you know,
great, because
yeah.
that'd be the 6th action item in government action. Yes, great.
Question. Last time we were talking about setting up a Google Doc to update the sustainability plan.
Yeah, and that's actually something that I can talk about too as we get into that, but that is something that is on my list and still working on trying to get that going. Because
Yeah,
I need to put that timeline in there and then set up a doc for the plan itself too, so.
Okay. So it's not up yet.
Not yet.
I can't edit yet. Okay.
In progress though, so.
Okay.
Yep.
I would say, yeah, let's change item 5 from today to, you know, get rid of the January 9th SAB workshop. Just
Sure.
put 2018 goal progress, update and action, or I don't know if we need an action, actually, just update discussion.
Sure.
You'll send
Right.
us an email when it becomes a Google Doc or
Yep,
what,
definitely.
sharing thing or something.
Well, do we want to put action just in case we want to take action on the tree policy
Yeah, we could,
update?
just to be safe, it's usually better to
Yeah,
be
why don't
safe
you
than we
update and
can-
action, yep. I'll
Yep.
leave it as is. Great. Okay, any other items that we want to have for next month? All right, then the next meeting is scheduled for Monday, April 2nd, 2018. And, yeah, we'll see you there. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
All right, we are adjourned. Thank you so much for tuning in.